Today I want to give you the clear differences between emotions and what are emotional states. And this will help you a lot, not only to deal with daily situations when you're experiencing emotions and change your states, especially the bad negative states that you might experience, but this will tremendously help you in communication with anybody, and especially when it comes to seduction, when you're communicated with women, because that's where these concepts become the most important. You need to understand them in order to deal with the people you're talking to. But first of all, let me show you this incredible view. I decided to go to the mountains here, Switzerland, since we are still kind of in a half lockdown and enjoying being outside. So first, let's start with emotions. And there are many models about emotions, but the one that I find is the most interesting is the one that is based on what are core primal emotions, let's call them that way. By primal, I mean that they're pretty much shared by all mammals on the planet, and when it comes to humans, the traits and the way they are experienced and the way they are expressed can be traced up to the facial expressions that people show, the signals that they match in the brain, so they have very specific zones. They are related to different organs in the body. So these are things that are really objectifiable. It's not just, decide what is an emotion and what is not. And most importantly, they don't differ cross-culturally. They are stable, pretty much. So that means that this emotion will be expressed facially and neurologically the same way, whether you are in Australia or in the United States or in Africa. So those emotions are joy, pretty clear. The expression is mostly a smile, an eye smile. Number 2, sadness. Number 3, anger. 4, surprise, which is a little different. Then the next one, which is fear. And the final one, the 6th one, is disgust. You might think of those primary core emotions that I just listed as the building blocks of all other complex emotions. It's mostly to say that, if you jump in front of a cat, the cat will, make an expression of being surprised and then will experience fear and run away, right? Like, these are really core, I would say almost primal emotions. Now, more complex emotions such as jealousy, for example, they're more, not to say that not all animals don't experience them, but most of them don't. And they are more specific to the culture, the society, and the way you look at things. Let's say it's pretty clear. It's kind of easy to say what situations you have to be in order to experience those primal emotions that I mentioned, seen from a primal point of view. But jealousy, for example, is really not universal. Actually, there are some cultures and primal tribes where the social setup is such that people don't experience jealousy at all. And what else can I say? This jealousy is nothing else but a mixture of these emotions, exactly like colors, green, blue, and red, can be mixed in order to create all other emotions. Now, and there is another factor to it, which is the emotional states, which I'm going to get into right now. But in order for you to understand the difference, this jealousy is kind of a mix between probably some fear and some anger. Something that says something is taken out from me, which is supposed to be mine. So that means I feel disrespected, anger. And something that says I don't know what is going to happen, I'm losing something, fear. There might be some other, differences, but that's important to understand that pretty much all emotions are based on those signals. These are electrical signals created by your body in your hippocampus, in your amygdala. There are different regions that are also connected with the memory, what you experience as a direct reaction to it. And, we're going to talk about this path of how emotions arise in a different video. But now I just want you to understand that these are the building blocks of all the emotions you experience, and there is pretty much nothing more than that. Emotional states. You have probably experienced this feeling when you think about something or someone, and it always triggers the same thing. just the idea of something always runs through the same emotional process. And this is something that is found commonly in depression, in any other areas of life. Let me just also touch briefly on the purpose. Oh, actually, I'm gonna cut short this video and just tell you about the purpose of these core emotions so that you understand them, and then that will help you in the next ones. Let's start with joy. Joy is an emotion shared by pretty much every mammal on the planet, and it's a characteristic of a mixture of pleasure, of happiness, of something is right, something is going well. It's also something that is usually experienced and highly contagious. When someone is happy, it's very hard to be sad around him. It's characterized through a smile, so it's really a shared emotion. So whenever you feel happy, people around you will feel happy. And this is also, the reason why we focus so much on how you feel inside, because through the law of state transference, the people, the women, the other men, anybody will feel what you feel. The second, sadness. What's the purpose of it? It's the emotion of change. Sadness is, the best way to visualize it is when there is a death, or you have probably experienced the loss of someone close. We have funerals where people cry, and people express that through crying. And it's also a very shared emotion. People cry together, people need that to connect together and to celebrate a loss, which is also celebrating the rebirth of something else, something new. So it's core emotion in change. Finally, we had anger. Anger is pretty simple. It's you have your own space, your own integrity, and this is basically what protects your private sphere. Basically, respect, your self-respect. What do you tolerate? It's pretty much, you can imagine if a stranger entered your house, which you consider being yours, you would try to kick him out instantly without even thinking, what is he doing there or whatever. It's just a natural reaction of, anger. This can be, aggressivity is not necessarily pure anger, that's directed anger, but anger is more like a very strong force that comes from our ability to fight for something, pretty much, or to express ourselves in a very clear manner. Surprise, surprise, surprise. It's pretty much what is, that's just, that's one of the very primal ones, since it's like clear reaction, but there's a difference with fear. Usually people confound them. Fear is usually an expectation, or there's fear is pretty much the emotion of grow. And that's the thing. When you are in your comfort zone, you are comfortable. You pretty much don't experience any sort of fear. But whenever something is outside of that, something you are not used to, something new, it's novelty, it's growth, it's change, then you're very likely to experience fear in every situation. Surprise is different though. Surprise is when something is unexpected, not necessarily new, not necessarily, fear usually arises when things are clearly stated, when you can foresee what is going to happen in the future, and that scares you. That's you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Surprise is pretty much, when someone surprises you and just offers you a gift or something like that, then you're surprised because it's unexpected. It's pretty much this reaction of surprise. Finally, disgust is the energy of rejection, whatever it is, and that's where it can be oriented towards others, like being disgusted of something that is happening, something that you consider being horrible, but also can be discussed towards the self, and that's where this will come into play when it comes to the emotional states that we're going to touch in the next video. Disgust is really the act of wanting to annihilate, destroy, kill, and that's where aggressivity is pretty much not just an expression of pure anger, which can be totally pacific, but disgust is not. Disgust is really the emotion that is behind Hitler trying to annihilate Jews and everything like that. So these are really emotions that they're all natural, they all have their purpose, as you see in the world, but depending on how they are experienced, they have really different outcomes.